All right, everyone. Mitt Romney is saying that he expects Donald Trump to win re-election handily in 2020 on two bases. One being the economy. Unemployment's down, wages are rising, the economic growth is, up considerably from the Obama norms. And number two, because he believes the Democrats are likely to nominate someone who's lackluster. I'd say so. On the first count, it's virtually assured that the economy will continue getting better. Part of this is innate because we were in basically a long-term recession that we're finally leaving. And part of it is the fact that Trump simply being there inspires consumer confidence. Tax cuts and deregulation do help business. The wealth does trickle down. In fact, it was basically during the Bush-Obama economy. That's the period of worst time when it comes to having so-called voodoo economics. Look, people at the top did very well all during the recession unless their businesses went under entirely. It was the average American worker that got screwed. I would also point out, though, and Romney doesn't speak of this, and it's basically, with him, it's, a broken clock is still right twice a day. It's basically what it boils down to. It's not like this is some genius prediction, like he has some inside knowledge. He's just using basic common sense. In other words, he is self-aware enough to understand what the whole fucking Democratic movement doesn't understand, which is that Trump is not a dangerous, horrible person. He is capable of getting probably above 50% approval based on economics alone, and he's making great strides in Korea. The summit approaches. When that happens, if it goes off really well, his approval probably does hit 50 before the midterms. Can you imagine how panicked the Democrats will be? They're not going to retake the House and Senate. They'll lose seats in the Senate. Might not even make any significant gains in the House if that happens. The Trump is Hitler illusion would be shattered. I'll point, it was funny earlier. Fox News was actually posting this, which was hilarious. Nancy Pelosi came out and said basically, she was being dismissive. She's like, hip, hip, hooray, unemployment is down. But it's really about those wages. So, we need higher wages for people and better consumer confidence. Like, wages and consumer confidence are both way up from the Obama years. You said nothing about those facets of your belief system during the Obama administration. For her, it's hypocrisy. And also, she's losing her mind. Like, if you look at the way she speaks in a more and more jolting manner, it appears that her mental capacities, which were already hazarded, are beginning to break down further. That's just my reading. I mean, isn't she an old woman anyway? Who's had, repeated plastic surgery or something? I can remember when she was considered a power player within politics. Now she's considered a running joke, including among a lot of Democrats. They're not very happy with Pelosi's. And look, Pelosi, one of the main figureheads of the Democrats, oversees an election which the Democrats get basically swept aside entirely. The Republicans crushed them in 2016. It wasn't just Trump. In state houses all over the country, governors, went red. We're now looking at a situation, the Democratic Party now is weak and inept enough that the Californians might end up with a Republican governor. Which, by the way, would probably really, really help the situation in your state. Now, Cox would probably end up being a Schwarzenegger, like a blue Republican. But at least he would stand in the way of maybe the worst aspects of a party that, at least in California, is beginning to resemble a socialist revolutionary movement. Maybe outside of California, a lot of the Democrats in the country are still like blue dogs, working class Democrats. Any Democrat that wants to hold on in the Rust Belt right now had better not actually be a leftist. California and New York City are different stories entirely. Trump rubbing elbows with the latter is hilarious. They still think that he's like a Bible-thumping rube that has like a 10 IQ. And they actually think of Donald Trump, of all people, as thumping a Bible and going out hunting with Dick Cheney. It's like the funniest imagery that you can possibly concoct. No, Mitt Romney's no genius. But at the very least, he does comprehend that one very important thing, which is Trump is at an advantage in 2020. I would say, again, in the midterms, if the economy continues to march along at the pace it's currently going, or even, begins improving more, if that continues and there's no major foreign policy problem between now and the midterms, Trump will hit 45. The Democrats will not take the House or the Senate. The Republicans probably gain a couple seats in the Senate. Right now it'd be between 1 and 2 seats. A very, very narrow margin of victory there, whereas the Democrats, all things considered, would come just a couple seats shy of taking the House. They'll be totally demoralized, by the way, if they lose power in the Senate. That makes it easier for Trump to get people confirmed. It makes it easier for him to do basically everything. Unless the Democrats at least narrowly take the House, they can't stand in the way of him getting funding. Right now, the Democrats in the Senate are the ones he's mainly negotiating with. He doesn't have to negotiate in the House. Even if there's only a fairly slim Republican majority in the House after the midterms at 5 or 6 seats, he still doesn't really need to negotiate much on that end. But if he gets a couple of extra Republican senators, he can do whatever the butt-fuck he wants. He knows this full well. I think he probably leaned on Mitch McConnell to pull his little no August recess for you maneuver, which probably it tips the balance in favor of Republicans. With the economy doing the same, with the possibility that the Korean summit is a resounding success. Now we have to wait to see if that happens. If it is, if he gets his major foreign policy victory before the midterms, yeah, the Republicans gain power in the Senate. They're not going to lose power in the Senate. They'll probably, the Democrats will come shy in the House. Pelosi comes out and is just totally dismissive of good unemployment reports. I think we're down at 3.8 now. Actually, we ticked down a little bit further. Unemployment is below 4%. Wages have begun to rise. Consumer confidence is already up. Business is booming in some parts of the country that were, for years they weren't able to really do anything. Expanse is actually happening right now. That's what our country, I think, fundamentally needs. And if we can solve some of these foreign diplomacy problems, things are going fine. People who thought that the country was going to fall apart, at some point they wake up to the reality that it's totally different than they expected. That Trump has not transformed the United States into a dystopian hellscape. That, problems admittedly aside, the privacy aspect of free speech online, certainly social problems, Trump himself has done a pretty good job so far. I'm scratching my head. What's he done that's pissed these people off other than be Donald Trump and have an R after his name? Nothing. The rest of it is all a bunch of ghosts, a bunch of propaganda, whereby people have been convinced by the Democrats and by the media that Donald Trump is problematic. But it's not because of anything he's actually done. They're still talking about this fucking Mueller probe. Got to talk about that yet again. Like, I wanted to stop talking about Mueller entirely because he's basically irrelevant at this point. It's turned into a Manafort witch hunt. He knows he's not going to nail Trump for anything. He's going after Paul Manafort on 10-year-old charges of money laundering. He re-indicts Manafort and his associate because Manafort's been a dumbass and he was trying to tamper with witnesses along with this Kilmanick person relating to their work in Ukraine 10 fucking years ago involving the Podesta group as well. It has nothing to do with Trump. People are acting as though, this time he gets... What are you talking about? Trump probably didn't even know Paul Manafort 10 years ago. He certainly wasn't campaigning for the presidency. So that was during the period where Trump's biggest aspiration was, hey, I think I'm going to go, today I'm going to go golfing, then I'm going to fly out, go on the Stern Show, and then I'm going to bang a couple of models. That's what Trump was doing 10 years ago. He wasn't the president. He wasn't running for the presidency. I don't even think he had shown up at a CPAC meeting yet at that point. He wasn't really involved in politics other than he got asked about it constantly by every other news anchor. Yeah, Larry King has him on, oh, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? What do you think about North Korea? It's like, why are you asking this person? It's almost like they were grooming him for office. But no, Mitt Romney is right. I think I agree with him. Although not all of the reasons are being stated by Romney. And of course, Romney's not even a fan of Trump. For him to say, yeah, I expect him to be reelected, that's actually, it's almost praise from a Republican who's basically a never-Trumper. He's like, yeah, he'll probably get reelected. Well, okay, I guess this time around, Romney's not going to stand in his way and say, well, he's going to lose the party and the country to Hillary Clinton. We'll suffer for 4 years. That was basically what he said before. He's changed his tune now a little bit, hasn't he? He's seen what Trump is actually capable of doing. That's about all. Peace out.